hold on, wait. So now you're trying to ruin James's relationship, his marriage? Why are you trying to ruin everybody? What is wrong with you?
After
I'm, I'm,
5 years of marriage, I asked my ex-husband for open marriage. He accepted, then replaced me. My ex-husband said that I broke his heart when I actually asked him for the open marriage. If I broke his heart, then why did he accept? If he would have told me no, then I would have stopped seeing the person I was talking to. I would have given my husband all of my attention, and I just would have worked more towards our marriage. Going to counseling, but he accepted the open relationship. Then he divorces me and replaces me. That's just not fair, and he wasn't being honest. One thing I pride myself on is honesty. From the very beginning, I had always been honest with my ex-husband. Victor, he's 39, and me, Giselle, 37. I met Victor at a coffee shop in my small town in Indiana. He had just started working in the town. I was born and raised here. I worked part-time at this coffee shop, and also I was a waitress at a local restaurant. Victor worked as a drafting engineer. He has his PE now, and he has his own company. Victor will come in every morning. On the 5th time he came in, I wanted to get to know him, so I started talking to him. I'm not going to lie. I was being flirty, but I don't want to be too forthcoming. I thought Victor was so handsome. From his haircut, his height, his figure, I could tell he went to the gym all the time. Unlike the current boyfriend I had at the time, I really liked Victor, and when he hit on me, that's when I remembered that I actually had a boyfriend. I told him no when he asked for my number, and I hoped that he would just walk out. At least I thought he would. He says, "Well, do you have social media?" I smiled. I said, "Yes. How about Facebook? You can friend me there." I gave him my name, and he said when he gets back to his office, he'll search up on his computer and friend me. If he can't find me, he'll be back. I smiled and wished him a good day. So, at the time, my boyfriend and I were on not so good terms. He just wasn't ambitious enough. He never really wanted to leave this town. Yes, I'm back here now, but I needed to get with someone who wanted to do big things. And Victor, he was doing big things, and he had big goals. He was just working here for the summer, and he was finishing up his degree. I was impressed by that college student, and he's already working, and I found out that he made good money. My boyfriend at the time, James. James was just what you'd call a bum. I loved him. I did. We were best friends growing up, but I needed more. I wanted to see the world. I wanted to leave this town. I wanted to leave Indiana State. I didn't want to be in the state anymore. James didn't see it that way. He saw it as if, well, if we leave, then we're away from family. What if we need help? I don't want to be with a man who thinks like that. That's not a man. A man doesn't need help from family. A man can take care of himself and his family. That's what Victor was. I saw that immediately. And in all honesty, I was just bringing James down. I'm not who he really wanted. He wants a woman that's going to settle for less and live in this old town in his old grandmother house. That house was stinky, carpet everywhere. Carpet in the bathroom, carpet in the kitchen. Who does that? And he had no interest in getting rid of it. He said, "We have shelter. I have a job. You have a job. Bills are paid. We're good." To James, a good weekend was Little Caesars, a movie or video games. I did him a favor. I gave him the opportunity to go find exactly what he really wanted. Plenty of those girls in that town that don't want to do anything. The only thing is, most of them are strung out on drugs. I wasn't. I don't drink alcohol, nor do I do drugs. I've had a taste of wine here and there, but I know where that stuff leads you to, and I was destined to find my husband, and I wanted to be clear-minded when I found him. And I knew I found him when I met Victor. Once Victor and I made it official after a couple dates. I broke it off with James. James was hurt, but I told him that this was best for us because, well, he needed to find a woman that was going to make him happy. I clearly wasn't making him happy because he was always yelling at me, telling me that I complained too much, that I wanted too much. I gave him the opportunity to find someone. He actually is married today. I saw it on Facebook when he got married. They documented the whole thing with video. It didn't compare to my wedding, but he got married and he was happy. I laughed a little bit when I watched the video. I said, wow, that could have been me, unfortunately. It was just dirty looking, but James and his wife were just smiling as if they were having his luxurious wedding. They're still married today, though. I definitely did him a favor. Victor swept me off my feet early, taking me to fancy restaurants, places I've never heard of, took me out of the city. He would take me back to where he went to school, and everything was there. We'd go shopping. Victor was amazing. So my ex-husband, Victor, even though he was in school, he still worked in the summertime. He'll work full-time, but during school he was working part-time, but he still made really good money. I saw one of his check stubs. He left it up on the screen. One person can make this much money. I learned about it, his goal of becoming a licensed engineer. He wasn't even a PE yet. When he graduated, our lives really changed. I was with Victor until he graduated school. He had 2 years left when we met. When he graduated, he proposed to me. I was so happy. I ran home showing my parents my ring. Everyone couldn't believe it. He was actually going to marry me, this girl who was a nobody from this small town in Indiana. My mom cried her eyes out and said she'll do whatever she can to put towards the wedding. She wants to see me make it. She knew me being with Victor. I would. I want you to truly understand what it's like growing up where I grew up. It was exciting when my mom moved me and my 2 siblings to a trailer park in Bloomington, Indiana. That's where we were born and raised. Before that, we jumped from apartment to apartment in Bloomington. But when we finally got a trailer, we were ecstatic because it was like we finally had a house. James also was born and raised in Bloomington, but he didn't live in the trailer park or apartment. His family owns homes. They weren't the best homes, but they own homes. After meeting James in high school, I'd go over all the time. His grandmother's house, that's where James lived. He didn't live with his parents anymore. When his grandfather died, his grandmother said that he can move in. There was room there, and she just wanted company, and she would allow me to bring my siblings over for food. We loved it because, well, it was an actual house. Even though we did appreciate the trailer house, now we're in a real house. So my siblings would always beg me to bring them over there and ask if they could stay the night. That actually started to tick my mom off because we were never home. I started to argue with my mom a lot. We bicker back and forth, and I'd stay with James and his grandmother often. His grandmother didn't mind at all, as long as we used protection and stayed on birth control because we could not afford to have any children. This kind of put a strain on my relationship with my siblings as well because I was never home one day. They both broke down to me and told me that they felt like I wasn't their big sister anymore, and it felt like I was abandoning them. I've always made it a point. Once I get married to a wealthy man, I was going to make sure they had everything they wanted and needed. Now I'm here to say Victor's not rich. He's not well off or anything, but he's far better than any man in Bloomington. That I've known, at least. When Victor graduated college, we moved to Ohio. He got a job offer that was going to pay for him to take his test to become licensed. When he told me what they were going to pay him and then the increase he would get once he becomes licensed, I almost fell on the floor. I didn't know one person could make this much. Families in Bloomington don't even make a third of that collectively. One thing that Victor stressed to me was that he did not want to have children, yet. He didn't want to lose focus on his goals, and I agreed. I thought we should make sure we were financially stable first. When we moved to Ohio, Victor had enough money saved up to put a down payment on a home. I asked him if we can get a big enough home to where my brother and sister can come stay from time to time. Victor is such a great man. He looked at me and smiled and said, of course. And then he told me we could have Christmas at the house and Thanksgiving holidays, barbecues, everything. I cried my eyes out. This is the man I prayed for. This is the exact man I wanted. The home Victor got for us was a newly constructed home. This was back in 2016. We just got married. Our wedding was amazing. That's an entirely different story, and it'll probably bring me to tears even typing it, but let's just say it was amazing. Something out of movie. I didn't drive, I didn't have a license, so I never had a car, but we did have two vehicles at the house. A truck that Victor would use for work. He'd have to go on site visits and things like that, and there was a Toyota. Really nice car. So I didn't work. I stayed home and I made sure the house was clean every day. I'd walk to the post office, if need be, for Victor. I'd walk to the store. I'd exercise. I did everything. Whatever he needed me to do. If I needed a ride, I found a ride. My neighbor also was a stay-at-home wife. She had children, but she drove. And a lot of times she'd take me where I needed to go, and I'd give her gas money or I'd buy her lunch or things like that. But every time her kids will come with us because they were young. But I didn't ask too much because, well, she was a mother and I didn't want to take advantage, but she would always stress to me, if ever you need to go anywhere, I'll take you. And whenever you're ready to learn to drive, I'll teach you. She was older. I really never had any desire to learn to drive. In Bloomington, I walked everywhere. I'm in such great shape due to my walking. Victor would drive to Indiana to pick up my siblings. They loved the house. They wanted to move in so bad, but my mom wasn't letting that happen. My mom loved my home. Coming over for Christmas and Thanksgiving and every year, along with some other family members. Everyone just loved my home, and I loved hosting them. You just made me feel so great. This is the person I wanted to be my whole life. Loving wife, living in a beautiful home, my family smiling. Victor bought nice gifts for my siblings every year and my mother. He's just so generous and such a great guy. Y'all are probably wondering why I'd want an open relationship, huh? I wish I could answer that question honestly. I really didn't know why I made that huge mistake. Well, I do. Actually, why allowed a liar to get into my head? I will say one thing. I heard as a child, and I wish I would have lived by this. The quote is, "An idle mind is the devil's playground." I had everything I had ever wanted. I was happy. I had the perfect life, but I started to get bored of the same routine every day. Walking to the store, walking to the post office whenever I needed, walk to the drugstore, getting a ride from my neighbor to go to Walmart or to Target to get some things, decorating the house. How many times am I going to rearrange furniture? How many times am I going to add new decor in the kitchen? How many Amazon packages am I going to order? 5 of them I like and send 3 of them back because it's not what I expect at all. That just got old to me. And Victor was not ready to have a child yet. I can tell you right now, if I had a child, I would have been too busy focusing on my baby, but I decided to jump on the internet. And I had been married for 5 years at this time. For all those years, I was non-existent really on Facebook. I jump on there here and there, but not as much as I used to be. I used to live on Facebook, playing games and everything. I started off playing Candy Crush. I loved that game, and I started responding to people messaging me, old friends and new friends, people that have friended me out of nowhere. A lot of them were foreigners. I thought that was really weird. I didn't respond to them, but then that led me to a dating app called Tinder. I was terrified to put my pictures on there because I thought somebody would see. Then I realized I don't really have friends like that, and I know none of my family members get on apps like this. So every day at home, I started finding fun in taking pictures. I take pictures in the mirror. I take pictures outside, acting as if I'm throwing myself into a bundle of leaves and making angels in a pile of leaves. Just random stuff. I went to brunch with my neighbor. I'd take pictures, and these are all pictures I was going to rotate on this Tinder app. After about 3 weeks with having random pictures of animals and scenery, I was bold enough to put my pictures on there, and I started getting hit up left and right. I didn't know who to talk to. They were just too many people. I started being picky, and whoever stood out looked like they had something going for themselves. I started responding back, but there was one guy. He really tricked me, and I discovered that this was called a catfish. So his name on there was Judge Joe Brown. He was an older black guy, and I discovered why he called himself Judge Joe Brown. His name was Joe Brown, but he wasn't a judge. He just took that from a popular judge that was on television. I thought he was an actual judge. He dressed very well, and it looks like he had things going for himself. He drove a Mercedes, I thought. He had homes, I thought. I discovered those were taken in several different homes that weren't his home. He rented them when he went on vacations with his family members. This guy had me fooled. I was so nervous to ask him about his job and work. I just never did. We just talked all the time whenever Victor was away at work or off at a job site. Sometimes he'd have to travel to like North Carolina or something and stay there a couple days. I talked to Joe all the time. I really thought he was an actual judge. I was going to ask him about work, but for some reason I didn't. But he never brought it up, not one time. But still, he tricked me because why would you call yourself a judge if you're not an actual judge? Joe also told me that he was an investor in Bitcoin and he was going to be a millionaire. He told me technically he's already a millionaire, but he has to cash all his coins in, but he's allowing for it to make more money. I didn't know anything about crypto, stocks, or anything. Victor never talked about that. I knew we had a 401k. Anyway, Joe really impressed me, and we talk all the time. He wanted to come over, but I was too afraid to do that. He told me he'd come pick me up and bring me to his place. But I have to excuse the mess and the fact that it's an apartment because he's staying there until his basement gets all the water out of it. I truly believed every single word Joe was telling me. That man lied to me. He was not a freaking judge. Eventually, I told Joe that I was married, and I had been married for a number of years. Joe is the one that suggested an open marriage. He told me if I wasn't happy with my husband, then maybe I should consider asking him for an open marriage. And Joe told me that he'd be okay with it, and a lot of people do it. This is when I asked Victor to open our marriage. I told him it would be great for us, and I just felt like it'll spice up our relationship. I got these ideas from books and articles. I started reading. Joe would send me them. I thought it would be beneficial for us, and it'll help us stay together forever. Victor had a blank face. After about 5 minutes, he just hit his head and said, "Okay." That was the only word that came out of his mouth. Okay. This was the worst decision I've ever made in my life. I started actually hanging out with Joe. He came and picked me up from the house when Victor was away. This is when I realized Joe was not an actual judge. I asked him, I said, "How are you able to talk to me so much throughout the week? Don't you have court cases to deal with?" He looked at me surprised, asking me what the heck I was talking about. Court cases? He said, "I'm not a lawyer. I thought I misspoken." I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, you're a judge, right?" Joe thought about it, then he started to laugh. He says, "No, I'm not an actual judge. I just called myself Judge Joe Brown on that app. It's my nickname." "You don't know who Judge Joe Brown is?" I said, "No." "Is he a judge?" Joe said, "Yeah," and started showing me videos of the actual judge, Joe Brown, that he found hilarious. I didn't see the humor in it. I asked Joe if we could go to one of his houses, and he told me that they all needed work done to them, but we can go back to his apartment. This is when I realized this man tricked me. He made me believe that he was a judge, and I didn't believe that he had a house, and I told him this. I said, "Where's your house? You don't actually have one, do you? Stay in an apartment?" Joe says, "I have a ton of homes. I travel the world when I want to. I'm practically rich. You better watch your mouth the way you talk to me." He started to scare me. I wanted to call Victor so bad. We ended up going back to Joe's apartment and we did have sex. I just wanted it to be over. This was actually 4 weeks after I asked Victor for the open marriage. When Joe dropped me back off at home, before I got out of the car, he had the nerve to tell me that maybe he'll call me back. I've been having a bit of an attitude, and he doesn't like it. That night I talked to Victor. I asked him if he was seeing anyone. He told me, yes, he met a girl a few weeks ago, and they've been hitting it off pretty well. I asked him if we can close the relationship. He looked at me and smirked, then went to bed. In the spare bedroom, 3 days later, Victor wrote me this long letter, and basically, I'll tell you what it said. It said, I am asking you for divorce. I don't want any trouble. I don't want to fight. I want this to go easily. Do not go against what you believe in, your morals. If you do, there's a special place in hell for you. Do not try to take alimony from me. Do not try to take 401k from me. That is mine, and I earned it, and you know it. I gave you the best life you could possibly have. You cheated on me going against what you truly believe in. Morally, if you don't want to suffer any consequences, I suggest you do the right thing. Something about that scared the crap out of me. I started praying and praying for forgiveness, and I decided to do the right thing. I wasn't going to try to take the house from Victor. I wasn't going to try to get 401k from him. I wasn't going to try to get alimony, even though my lawyer was telling me I deserved it. My lawyer told me I was stupid, and he had threatened to not represent me if I didn't go forward. I told him that I'll find a lawyer that will help me get through this divorce, but I'm not taking a dime from Victor. I found a lawyer who was okay with me not wanting anything from my ex-husband. I tried begging Victor to stay with me. I begged him for forgiveness. He told me maybe he'll think about it when this divorce is final. That really persuaded me not to go after anything because I thought, well, I have a better chance of us reconciling because I don't really want anybody else. I really just made a huge mistake. Getting a divorce, even the judge was weirded out about me not wanting anything. He kept questioning me, and my judge asked me and my lawyer if I'm sure that I don't want to go after alimony or 401k or anything. I told him I didn't want a single thing from this man. Divorce was finalized, and I didn't get anything. He replaced me. Those were the words he told me. I reached out to him via Facebook because apparently he blocked me from making phone calls to him. He tells me that I've been replaced and I should move on with my life. Now I'm in Bloomington, Indiana, living in a trailer with my mom and my siblings. I don't know what I'm going to do. My heart is telling me to keep trying to get Victor and do everything I can to get them back. My mind is telling me that the woman he's with doesn't even compare to me. She's not going to like me. She's not going to clean like me. She's not going to run errands like me, and eventually he'll take me back, fingers crossed. For now, James and I have been talking. Nothing serious, just talking about old times. James's wife has been giving him a hard time, and he's leaning on me as an escape. I'll be here for him. He deserves that.
Hold on, wait. So now you're trying to ruin James's relationship, his marriage? Why are you trying to ruin everybody? What is wrong with you? I'm sorry. I appreciate the story. I do. But you got what you deserved. I'm glad he talked you into not going after a lot of stuff because you could have destroyed him. Guys, she could have destroyed this man, Victor. She could have gotten alimony. She could have gotten the house. She could have gotten 401k, car. She didn't even have a license. She could have gotten the car. She could have gotten everything. I don't feel bad for you. I'm sorry. No one should. No one should. Now I'm back in Bloomington in a trailer with my mom and siblings. Oh, that's where you belong. You were blessed with an opportunity to be with a guy who was willing to just do everything for you. And I'm not the type of guy that'll say, a husband shouldn't, basically simp for his wife or whatever. I mean, it's your wife. It's your wife. Yes, you're supposed to take care of her. But, and vice versa, she's supposed to do the same for you. It's not just all on the man. Don't get me wrong, but you took advantage of this man. You got bored. I'm bored. Take classes. Go do some yoga, some, Pilates or something. Like you don't have to go sleep with people because you're bored. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't make any sense. This man is doing everything. He believed that taking care of the household, paying for everything, apparently because you're not making any money, he was comfortable doing that. And I'll never knock a man for wanting to do that or doing that. There's some men that do it and apparently they never get cheated on. It's possible, guys. But this woman, clearly you didn't deserve what you had been praying for your whole life. You said you were praying for it. You got it, and then you just destroyed it. How silly can you be? And to fall for this guy, Judge Joe Brown, got you. He got you. Guys, let me know what you think about this in the comments. If you want to send in a story, send it to truestorynation@gmail.com. Here, I'll put it on the screen. That's truestorynation@gmail.com. I'm going to catch you guys at the next one.